Morning all. It's 9:30 here in Cambridge in England. I'm sitting in Abbey College. My name is Julian Davies and I'm the principal here at Abbey College. And I've been invited along to talk to you today about the work that we do here in Abbey College and how this might help you with your future. And essentially the work we do in Abbey College Cambridge is we help students get to top universities. Now, as it happens, most of our students come from other countries, so we have something of a specialty over many years now, over 20 years actually, in helping international students in particular to go from their country, their high school, to the UK and then to UK universities. Sometimes students go to universities in other countries, such as the US, Canada, European universities, but it's UK in the main. That's the destination of choice for most of our students. Now, we believe here in Abbey Cambridge that you should go to the very best university that you can go to. And I'm sure that you'd agree, if you do that, it gives you better opportunities in your career. It's clear in the UK, there are very different career opportunities available for somebody who graduated from a Russell Group university in the top 24, compared to somebody who graduated at the bottom of the university league table. There are 130 universities here. If you graduated at 130, you'd probably find it more difficult to get a very good job compared to graduating in the top 20. I think that's probably very obvious to everybody. There are different standards of the universities. So we think you should aim high. That's the philosophy on which I run Abbey College Cambridge. So with that in mind, a lot of the work that we do is devoted to helping international students who've just arrived into the UK, maybe for the first time, helping them to prepare to get to a top university. So that's what we do. We're if you like, the step between high school at home and a top university. And what we've learned over the 20 years is what you need to do in that step while you're in a college like Abbey College Cambridge. What you need to do, in other words, to enter those universities. So I'm going to give you some of the things that we do here, which give you perhaps some ideas about what you can be doing now, and generally the thinking that we have about what you should be preparing in that crucial time before university. Okay. So I guess a way to think about this is if you're aiming for a top university in the UK, you're aiming actually for a top university in the world. So the UK Russell Group, the top 24 universities, and that's the term for them, they are also top world universities. You may know in the top 10 ranking, it's usually only UK and US universities, and that's largely true for the top 20 and even the top 30. The majority are UK and US. So I'm talking today about UK. So that's worth bearing in mind. You probably already know, if you say to yourself, well, I'd like to go to Cambridge, what you're really saying is, I want to go to maybe the top or the second or the third, depending on who you ask, best university in the world. That's actually your target. Or you might say, well, I'd like to go to Imperial. That's one of the best science universities in the world. So that's what you're trying to achieve when you aim for that end in the UK. Because they're so good globally, you're actually saying, I'd like to go to one of the best universities in the world. Brilliant. That is our work. That is what we do in Abbey College Cambridge. I'm just trying to set out really the ambition that you have. If you say to us you'd like to go to a Russell Group university, you're saying, I want to go to a world-class university. And it may well be that all of those Russell Group universities are ranked more highly than all of the universities in your home country. That may be the case, depending on where you're from. So that sets the scene about what is going to be expected of you. Okay, so how are you going to convince these top universities to take you? Well, I guess that's why you're on this seminar today. It's worth pausing though and thinking about your own answer to that question. What is the answer to the question, why would Imperial College or Cambridge or Nottingham University or Manchester, these very, very good universities, why would they take you? What do you think you need to do to prove to them that they should choose you? Well, you may be thinking, well, I'm a very hardworking student. I'm very diligent, I'm conscientious, I do all the work I'm asked to do, and I get good grades in my exams. That's often what I hear when I ask people who are aged 16, 17, 18 about why they think they'll get to a top university. And those are good answers. They're important answers to say I'm committed, I'm diligent, I'm hardworking, I get good grades. And in some countries, good grades is all you need to get to a top university. However, not in this country. And that's what I'm going to talk you through. It's not simply about how hard you work and about following what the teacher asks you. That's very important. Passing exams is extremely important, but it's not enough in the UK's culture of education. So the culture here at the top of these universities, the top of the league tables, is about students who have a genuine passion for their subject, a love of their subject, and have done something about that passion, so that when they apply to university, they can say, I'm diligent, I'm hardworking, I pass exams. Oh, and by the way, I've read this book about engineering, and I've talked to this person about the design of the bridge in Cambridge, and I've read this seminar about engineering. I've gone to an engineering company for a day and spoken to the engineers. And these are my ideas about why I would like to study engineering. That's just an example, of course, for engineering. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen and show you a presentation, so to talk you through the steps that we have here that actually results in students going to top universities. Just before I do, though, a good place to look for information, if you want more information about Abbey College Cambridge, is the website. I've just shared that screen with you. I hope you can see that. And what I'd quickly like to show you, if you like, is the evidence that I'm going to give you as to the fact that our processes work. So I hope that when I then talk to you about what we do, you believe me that it works, okay? So what I'm going to do, look, results and destinations. I'm just going to show you student destinations just to see where our students go to. Oh, there's our graduation look there. So we pick a year, well, let's pick last year, 2021, and hopefully you can see there on the screen. Look to the right. That's particularly what we're looking at today. Where have students gone this year, 2021, after finishing in Abbey College, Cambridge? So you can see on the right-hand side, Cambridge, Cambridge, Imperial, 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 London School of Economics, London School of Economics, UCL, 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 UCL. So the list is very, very long. So the structures that we have, the processes that we have here, work very well. The list then goes down. You can see other universities in this country and beyond, King's College, for example. Okay, there's LSE as well down there, Queen Mary, Edinburgh, lots of medicine. Okay, so I hope that then gives you a bit of context that the processes, the way that we approach our education here and the preparation is going to help. So let me share again, and I'm going to run through now how we do this. So hopefully now you can see on your screen the presentation that says world-class learning community. All right, so these are the things that we feel you need to do to get into a top university. Okay, 3 things. The first one are your grades, the English, and a strong university application. Okay, grades are relatively easy to understand, and so is academic English, because that will be very familiar to you. And I've already I've suggested that the strong university application perhaps is the key difference that a strong student has. And that's why they get their place at a top university. So in terms of academic grades, the grades in Abbey College, Cambridge are very good. They've always been very good for the past 25 years. Actually, we've been top of league tables and in the top 5, top 10 of these kind of colleges. We're non-selective, so we are probably the best performing non-selective school, actually. We believe ambition is what determines whether a child joins Abbey College, Cambridge, not previous grades necessarily. So I have students of all grades in the past coming here and doing extremely well. Some of the features, the class size is small here. I think that's important. The teachers want to work with international students. They want to work with bright, engaged, ambitious students. We train them on how to teach international students. We have a culture of ambition. We monitor well. The facilities here are state of the art. We've got a brand new campus that I helped design, as it happens. We use technology seamlessly, and that results in very high grades. I've just cut out 3 years worth from the website. Many more years of grades are up there. So that's, if you like, the easy part to understand. Students here are taught well. There's a culture of ambition. Grades are very high. English is also taught to most of our students. Even those who've got a good level, we push up to a higher level, because for top universities, IELTS is crucial. But I suppose most of us would agree and understand that that is the case. It's part of the programs here. But as I keep going back to, this is the most important difference that the children in a college like Abbey will get. They get very good preparation. Okay, so let's look at the university preparation programs we do and what you can do about your preparation before perhaps joining Abbey, or if you don't join Abbey, what could you do to improve your chances? Okay, so the kinds of things that we do. I mentioned previously the example of somebody who wants to study engineering. So if you want to study engineering and you're in year 12, okay, that means you're about 16 or 17 years old. You apply to university in year 13, so you have a year. What those universities expect is that you really want to study your subject. It sounds kind of obvious, but many international students, when they first come to my school, they don't really understand that, which is why we have lots of programs. I'll talk about some of them in a second. They don't really understand that it's not simply good enough to say you really want to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or an economist, and that you've always wanted to be an economist or a doctor. And it's not good enough, excuse me, it's not good enough just to say I've got good grades. You have to evidence what you're saying. So what evidence means is you have to say, well, I want to study medicine, and the reason is I've spoken to doctors and I've asked some questions, and I now have a better understanding about what medicine is, and I think I'll be a good doctor, and these are the qualities that I've seen in doctors that I think I have, and this is how I can prove I've got those qualities. So that's quite a lot of information, but essentially you're saying, I'm serious. I am a doctor, I just haven't been trained yet. I think like you do. I'm applying to join your medical school, and I'm applying to be trained by you, doctors. I am one of you. This is my evidence to prove it. So that's a philosophy that we have here. And you might think to yourself, well, what does that actually mean in real terms? How do I become a doctor without the training, or an engineer who hasn't gone to university yet? Well, another way of thinking of it is everybody has interests in things that are outside of school. Okay, so perhaps let's take Premier League football. Okay, so the Premier League in the UK is obviously the top sport, the football in the UK. It's very successful across the world, right? You may follow it yourself in your own country if you're not from the UK. For somebody that supports a football team, so let's say you support Manchester United, you probably are very interested in the team because you support Manchester United, you watch them play. Maybe you'd like to come to England and see them physically in the stadium in Manchester. You probably know who coaches them. You probably know the top players. You may even know where the top players were from. They may not all be from the UK, maybe from other countries. You may know how much they were bought for. You may know the previous tournaments they've taken part in. In other words, if you have an interest in Premier League football, and you have an interest particularly in Manchester United, you could probably talk about it and give your opinions about it. Okay, that's quite important because you're able, using background information, all the knowledge you have, which you found out because you wanted to find it, because you've got all that information, you can then give opinions and say, I don't agree with the coach. I don't think they should have done this. I think they should have done that. Okay. Hopefully, you've got interests in the world, maybe outside of school, where you can do that. You can actually say, you know what, I could stand up for 10 minutes and give my opinion about Manchester United. Actually, I could do that. Or about, I don't know, dance, or about current affairs, about Harry Potter, whatever it is. You've got an interest that you found because you love it, which means you can then talk about it. Okay. Imagine now doing the same thing, not about your hobby, but about your university choice. Imagine thinking to yourself, if I could find out about as much with engineering as I already know about Manchester United, I could then stand up and talk for 10 minutes about my opinions in engineering or medicine or law or computer science, whatever it is. So that is the secret to strong university applications. Involving yourself in your subject to such an extent that you could probably talk about it to a professor of that subject. Now, he knows more, of course, but he'd be very impressed with you if you can tell him your opinions about engineering, or you could talk about the latest ideas in economics, if that's your subject, or some of the challenges in the world of health at the moment, or the political conflicts across the world. Whatever it is you choose, if you can talk about it and give your ideas about it, you're very, very close to impressing people. You've got to have good grades, of course, and you've got to have good English. But that's what they want, these professors. It's very simple. They want to see people who seem to genuinely love the course that they genuinely love. Okay, so that's really what our university preparation programs here do. So we've got lots of different things that we do, lots of structures, but they're all designed with that purpose in mind. They're all designed to help students develop their knowledge of their subject before they go to university, so that when they apply, they can say, this is what I think based on the knowledge I have. And the reason I talked about Manchester United is because you can probably do this right now about something that you love. Try and think, how can I do that for my subject? So these are the things that we do in Abbey Cambridge that work, as you can see from the list I've shown you, and that help students get to top universities. So all of these, certainly the first few initiatives are things that we've created here. So I've thought long and hard about what international students need, and these are the programs that we've put on. So you won't necessarily find them in other schools and colleges because we created them. So the first thing to talk about is we have a structure here called Abbey Inspires. These are evening lessons, workshops, lectures, visits run by my teachers. So my teachers agree to do extra work 7 times a year in the evenings. I have 60 teachers. So you can immediately do the maths and go, there's 60 teachers, 7 times a year. Wow, that's 420 evening lessons, lectures, talks, visits, guest speakers. 420 per year. So many of those happen during the term. So what is Abbey Inspires? Well, the idea is breadth. So that's why that word is in bold. And this is what a student would say. Okay, so I made this quote up. Okay, this is not a real quote because this is what I think a student would say if you sort of ask them what the point of it was. Well, I'm interested in many things in the world, not just my own subject. This helps me become more well-rounded. But here's the killer thing. I can make connections between subjects. So I've been talking to you about becoming more knowledgeable about your subject. But bizarrely, we start here in Abbey by allowing you to go to these evening extension, enrichment, academic sessions with any subject, anything that might be of interest to you. So you might think to yourself, well, I want to do economics at university? Why should I go to a politics lecture in the evening? Or why should I go out with the students to an open lecture at the University of Cambridge at 7 o'clock on a Monday? Or why should I listen to our Member of Parliament? Maybe the Member of Parliament's coming in to talk to our students. We've done that in the past. Why should I find out about history and politics? I want to study economics. You can probably guess where this is going. If you've met your Member of Parliament, so that's the local politician who represents Cambridge, if you've gone to a lecture on history, if you've gone to a workshop about politics, that will help you have a better understanding of how economics fits into those other subjects. So we call that breadth. And most students are very bad at this. Okay, most students do their A-levels, economics, maths, physics, whatever it is, and they don't have enough breadth. So that's what this is for, is to say, well, come on a Monday, come and meet the Member of Parliament. I know you want to do economics, but come and meet a politician and ask them about economics. Ask them why we have the policies we have. Okay, so that's breadth. Okay, the next thing we do is from January of year 12, so after one term for most students, some join in January as it happens, but most join in September. We then add, alongside Abbey Inspires, the breadth, alongside your A-levels, if you're doing A-levels here, you might do 3 or 4 A-levels and English. On your timetable, we put this course on, Predegree Diploma. So again, it's an Abbey College Cambridge course. So this is something that me and my team thought about some years ago and we created. I've not seen it anywhere else, but it's very important because what this does, it gives you time on your timetable to look at that subject that you want at university and only that subject. So we're not going breadth, we're going depth. We're going deeper into the subject that you want at university. And this is what a student would say. I love finding out more about my subject. I do this myself with guidance from teachers and with other students who love the subject too. So that means on a Thursday, you have an hour and a half in a classroom with a teacher who loves engineering. Okay, if you're an engineering student, and you're there with all the other year 12 students who want engineering. They may be in different physics classes to you, different maths classes, that's fine. You all come together with a teacher. I happen to have teachers who were engineers, so I've got a bit of an advantage in this regard. And you talk about engineering every Thursday for 2 terms. You also are encouraged to read books. So you'll be given reading lists. You'll be shown the engineering library of books. You'll be told which chapters to read to make it a little easier to access information. And because that room is full of students who want engineering, you will do projects together. You'll be put into small groups of 5. You'll do a project. You'll write up your project as if it was a scientific or a journal paper, and you present it in a conference. So there's an outcome here. That conference is at the end of June. You start this in January. So you can see this course is deliberately designed to give you time with like-minded people, other engineers, with a like-minded teacher. Like I said, I happen to have engineers in the physics department talking about engineering. Because remember, usually in school, you will be learning maths, physics, chemistry, perhaps, in preparation for engineering, as an example. Or maybe maths, further maths, physics, and economics. That's quite a common subject combination. So if you're doing those subjects in preparation for university and you're applying to engineering, you are doing no preparation for engineering. Does that make sense? If you study maths, further maths, economics, and physics, you're not preparing for engineering. You're preparing for those subjects, and I hope you do well in those subjects. You'll understand some of the mathematical theories that underpin engineering. You'll understand some of the physics models that are used to make sure that bridges don't fall down. There's physics there, of course, forces and materials, but there's a lot more about engineering that you just don't cover in A-level, because you're not doing an A-level in engineering, you're doing it in the core base academic subjects. So that's why we have this course, to say to you, all right, 1.5 hours per week, let's do engineering. Or next door, computer science. So I've got one of the CEOs of a computer science company that works in Cambridge. He comes in and talks to our students for 1.5 hours every Thursday next door for the computer science students. We've then got students who want business. We've got art students in different rooms, architecture students. So around the school, you've got different groups of Year 12 students focusing on their subject. It's incredibly powerful because the teacher is there to guide you. We're not simply saying, go away and read The Economist magazine. We are saying, this is the chapter in The Economist magazine. You read this, and I want the three of you next week to come to the group and present what the article was about and what you thought about it. Okay, so we're guiding you through the extra information in the subject that you're applying for at university. Okay, the next thing we do, UCAS, that's an acronym you may be aware of, University Central Admissions System. So in other words, it's the application for UK universities. The key thing here, you have to write an application, and that's quite daunting. So all of the work is done one-to-one with a tutor here. And this is what a student would say: my tutor guides me through all the stages, choosing courses, choosing universities, the personal statement, entry tests, mock interviews, the whole thing. We do that one-to-one here. The reason we devote such a huge amount of time from the staff is because it's important to our students having a strong application. So you can see number 1 and number 2, those are only done in Abbey College, Cambridge. They are there to prepare you to write very high quality applications in number 3, the UCAS application. Okay, we also know amongst these top universities, the top 24 Russell Group, or even the top 5, the G5, the higher up you apply on the league table, the greater the competition. And it culminates, of course, in Oxford and Cambridge, 800-year-old universities in the top 2 or 3 or 4 in the world every year. So to get into those universities, it's yet another level of competition. And we also know there's one course that stands out above all others that's very hard to get into for any university, and that's medicine. When I say medicine, I would include dentistry and veterinary medicine, but we call that medicine as in the round. So final part of our programs here, for the students looking for Cambridge or Oxford or medicine, there's an additional program. And this is what a student would say about them: I'm challenged to think and act as the very best student I can be. Okay. So those 4 steps are what we believe results in students getting to these very, very good universities. Of course, they've got good grades, they've got good English, and they've shown they can beat other students to competitive world-leading universities. So let me just finish off now by running through just a few examples of what we do. Here's Abbey Inspires. You can see students in workshops. They are having visits. You can see they've gone to a printers at the bottom there doing hand printing. You can see there's one that says Isaac Physics. That's a physics session that we invite schools to come to. We've got a great physics department here. We even go out with astronomy lessons. That's you can see there's a telescope in that picture on the top right there. So there's lots of enrichment, and anybody can attend anything to broaden your interests, not purely in the subject you're studying. Okay, and I picked this spreadsheet, cut and paste, from a week in November. So that just happens to be a week showing you what is going on in the evenings for this academic enrichment, to prove, if you like. So I started on the 11th of November, going till the 18th. You can see there Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Those are the days of the week, obviously. And you can see they're all happening pretty much at 18:30. And you can see on the right-hand side the kind of things that we did in that 1 week, just as an example, in November. So you can see some of it is preparation for university, Oxbridge interview practice from 2 chemistry teachers. There's a senior maths challenge, the Olympiad. The next one is an economics lecture, if you like, about the City of London, a big financial centre, one of the globe's largest one. Next to that, then, there is a talk about RNA. Then there's climate change from a geographer, the longitudinal problem from a physicist. So you can see lots of different things: poetry, chemistry, physics, music, life drawing, a full breadth across the school. The only other school, by the way, I've seen something like this is Eton. So obviously, I think we're onto a good idea here, because Eton is obviously a very fine school with a very fine heritage. I've seen a very similar approach there. Okay, let me whiz you through the pre-degree diploma. Just to remind you, this is a course on your timetable. You will get this in year 12 if you join in September or January, and you are with other like-minded individuals. And there they are. That's a group of engineers in Cambridge University's engineering department. Invite only. You're not allowed just to turn up. We go there because we have former students there. Makes sense. Then you have students at the bottom presenting to all of year 12 their findings in their conference. And there's a picture there, the medical students presenting at a medical conference in Abbey, a poster. So that's a scientific way of showing work. UCAS Prep, just a reminder, it's all one-to-one. And there's one of our former students talking about his experience at getting into Cambridge. And there's an Oxford and Cambridge admissions tutor there giving mock interview practice. And I mentioned Oxford and Cambridge requires further work. So we work with a partner organization. There's no extra charge for our students, but that partner organization adds a further level of expertise and more time. So it means the students for Oxford and Cambridge here get a lot more help in those 4 areas on the bullet points: building knowledge, preparing for tests, preparing for interviews, and choosing which college within Cambridge University or Oxford University. So specific help on the very hardest applications that there are. Again, it's 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, and it mimics the kind of experience you actually get in Oxford or Cambridge in what's called the tutorial system. The tutorial system is you meet a professor with one other student and you have a talk. He sets you some work, some reading. You meet in a week and you talk about the reading and the work. So it's a very high standard of expectation, and that's what we do here. So it helps you to step up and see the level that's required for Oxford and Cambridge, and we structure that work. So we will set you work to do, and we will see you in a week to see how you got on with that work, and we'll talk about it and challenge you to simulate what it's like to be in Oxford and Cambridge, to prepare you as well for the interview. More information about the Oxford Candidate Programme. The medical programme, it's a similar idea. For medicine, it's extremely hard to get in, but preparation is all. So the medical preparation programme, that's all done in-house. And we do something which I think is quite useful, quite clever. Rather than simply having one session on your timetable from January in year 12, remember that one pre-degree diploma, we also give you 5 hours of teaching in medicine. So the thinking here is, if you have been taught medical topics, so for example, we'll teach you some physiology and some anatomy. You don't do that in the same depth in an A-level. You simply don't look at it in that way. You don't study human anatomy really in any detail in A-level biology. You study very little pathology in A-level biology. That's things that make us ill and the cause of that. So that's what you get here. We will give you lessons. We will also guide you through work experience for medicine, and we'll help you in all of the reading that you should be doing. I've got a reading list of 30 books that we can guide you through. Okay, so what I hope that's done is given you a sense of what is required. You've got to be able to do all the things your teachers ask. You've got to be able to pass exams. You've got to be able to work hard. I'm just going to stop the share for a second. There we go. So there we go. You've got to work hard. All the things I said at the beginning. You've got to work hard. You've got to prove that you're committed, that you do all the things your teachers ask. You can pass exams. You've got good English. That's your start. Assume that everybody who wants this university place does all those things. So what I hope I've shown you today is the magical extra component, which is how you can show that you're serious, that you actually have a genuine interest. Remember the analogy with Manchester United. You already have an interest in a hobby. You now need to develop the same level of interest in computer science or engineering or law or medicine, whatever it is. You've got to develop that. And the way that we do that here, we actually structure it for you. We give you the opportunity for breadth, so you can learn about related topics, and we give you depth, things that simply don't exist in A-level. Brilliant. Okay, so I've talked for, golly, about 35 minutes, which I think is probably enough of me. So I think what we can do now is perhaps, John, if there's anything that's come through, any questions people might have, I'll be delighted to see if I can help.
Thank you, Julian. Yes, we've had a couple of questions come through. Please do post any questions you have for Julian now while we're going through a few, and we'll hopefully be able to deal with those as well. I'm going to work through the first question that we've had sort of during this session, and then I'll do some that were from the pre-registrations. We've just been asked whether there was any difference in terms of Oxbridge admission as to whether you take the 2-year A-level program or the 18-month A-level program. I suppose, is there any disadvantage if you do the 18-month?
No. Okay, let me tell you why. The 18-month A-level program, what we need to appreciate is the difference between a 2-year and an 18-month. So in the UK, exams are always sat at the end of an academic year, which is in May and June. So that's when the end of the A-levels have to be. The exams are taken at the end and not partway through. There are no intermediate steps. They're taken at the end of a course. A-level is designed to be taught in 2 years. So that's actually 6 academic terms. So you think of the UK structure, 1 term is September to December, then January to April, and then April to June or July. Those are the 3 terms. You do 2 years worth normally, 6 terms. What we have discovered, in fact, many years ago now, about 15 years ago, is for some students, September is not a convenient start point. January can be more convenient. So we have about a quarter of our students that join the A-level program in January. So we have new classes that start in January, so you haven't missed anything. The question then is, can you do the same work from a January start compared to a September start? You're starting without having done that term. Well, the classes start from the beginning of the work. You haven't missed anything, but they go more quickly. So if you're the kind of student who is ambitious, you will find you should do just as well if you start in January, as long as you realize that we have the same work to do, but with less time. So we've actually looked at this. You can imagine it's very important that we analyze the success of our students. There is no difference in the success between September start and January start. But that's because the January start students know it's a little harder, it's a little faster, a little more intense. You have to be ready for that challenge because I can't give you more time. We have 5 terms instead of 6. So in terms of Oxbridge, it makes no difference to Oxbridge. They don't really have a huge amount of interest in when you start. They want to see a smart student who's able to give opinions in an interview. That's what they really want to see. And of course, they want to see that you've got good grades. So in terms of that, that's not the concern. The concern is, are you ready to start a slightly more intensive course in January? In which case, you will be successful. John.
Thank you, Julian, and please do keep posting questions if you have any at the moment. We had a question pre-registration from a leader. She was just asking, they were just asking if there are any, is it an advantage to take 4 A-level subjects, and I suppose concurrently, is it a disadvantage to have 3 A-level subjects if you're aiming for places like Cambridge or Imperial?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because in the UK you need 3 A-levels to go to university. You can go to any UK university. In fact, you can go to any university in the world with 3 A-levels. So why do people do 4? Well, as a rule, we start everybody here with 4. And the reason we do that is because A-levels are hard. Okay, they are one of the hardest exams that you are going to do. Going to university is harder, but you're older and you're more prepared for harder work. So for your age, A-level is an extremely hard exam. It's called advanced level, by the way. That's what the A stands for. And that's why only 3 subjects are normally studied. We start students with 4 because it allows students to then work out, well, can I do 4? Am I able to do 4 or maybe 3? Most end up doing 3. And then which 3? Well, maybe you've never studied psychology before, but you want to give it a go. So you do biology, chemistry, maths, psychology, and you find you love it. in which case you carry that on and maybe you stop maths. Or maybe, as you haven't done psychology before, you find you don't like it. It's not what you thought it was. So you can drop it and you've still got the 3. You may also find the same experience with a subject like economics or business. You may not have studied that in quite the same way before. So starting 4 enables options. If you start with 3 and you find you don't like the psychology, it's very hard after a month or 2 or 3 to stop it and start something else because you've missed the work. Okay, so that's why you should start with 4, I would say. It's your decision, but I would recommend you start with 4. This particularly applies if you're thinking about further maths. Because if you start with further maths and maths, you've got to do both, and one other subject. If you find that further maths is a little harder than you were expecting, and you have to stop it, if you've only got 2 left, you've got nowhere to go with it. So 4 is a good place to start. With regards to Oxford and Cambridge, well, they want smart students who can sit in a room and argue with them, right? That's the interview. An interview is defending a position about your subject. They may ask you a question: why does the bridge not fall down in economics or in engineering? Sorry, or in history they may say to you, why did Napoleon lose? Okay, these kind of big questions that I ask you, whether you did 3 A levels or 4, they're not that bothered about. They need you to be smart students who can argue their case. If doing 4 helps you to do that, then great. But you'd have to get A stars and A's in those 4. If you did 3 A levels, you'd still have to get A stars and A. Now, you might think, well, isn't it more impressive if I apply with 4s and 3? Yeah, but if you've got A's and A stars and you've got a strong application, they'll interview you anyway. And then they'll know. So it's the interview for children with A's and A stars. You have to get that, whether it's 3 or 4 subjects. You have to have had that before in whatever exams you've done before. So if you're a smart student and you apply to the world's best universities, they will go, okay, 3 A levels, 4 A levels, great. A star student, come and speak with us. We'll have 2 sessions of 20 minutes and we'll find out. So that's what it's all about. Are you prepared for the 20 minutes sitting with a professor who's going to ask a history student, why did Napoleon lose the war? Okay, for example, or a biology student, why is there a pandemic? How do vaccines work? Why do vaccines do X, Y, and Z? That's what your preparation is all about. If you get an interview, it will be because you've got good grades and a good personal statement. You have a good personal statement because of the preparation you've done. 3 or 4 A levels, it's less important than being able to pass an Oxford or Cambridge University interview. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Julian. We've had a question, you touched on this a little bit earlier, I think, just asking about kind of whether we help students progress to US universities, and if so, kind of what level of support do we provide for that, and kind of which universities typically do our students progress to?
Right. The short answer is yes. We have a university preparation team here. So I mentioned everything is done one-to-one. So you have a personal tutor and an academic tutor, somebody who helps you with the knowledge you need for the course and your application. Most of our students apply through UCAS, which is the UK central process. However, there are universities in the UK that do not use that process. So a university called UCLan, for example. There are universities in Ireland that don't use that process. Ireland is the country next door to the UK. Universities in Europe, in America, in Canada, in Australia, in Asia. So the approach we have is exactly the same. One-to-one help for your university application, whether it's the UK or US or Asia or Europe, anywhere you will get one-to-one support. That might be at a different time of year. It might be you do this in the spring of year 13, whereas the UK system tends to be the autumn of year 13. That's fine, but it's all one-to-one. And which universities? Well, students have gone to universities all over the planet. And in US, that includes Harvard, which is clearly as good as Oxford and Cambridge. Some folk think it peaks it and is #1 in the world. So students get to the Ivy League in the US and the Russell Group in the UK, the sort of comparative, and those are the very best. So if you can get into those, the other universities in the world are as good as those. So the philosophy is we help you one-to-one with your university application, whichever university and wherever that is almost a secondary point. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Julian. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's my understanding that students can apply to both UK universities and US universities while they're here. So you can have.
That's right. So that's correct. The only constraint you have with the UCAS process, that's the UK system, is you can apply for 5 universities in the UK per year. It's slightly more complicated because if you get 5 rejections, it doesn't really happen in Abbey, I have to say, you're allowed to have another go. So beyond those 5, you can then apply to anywhere outside of the UK. You can apply to Ireland, US, and Europe and so on. Bear in mind, the applications that we do are very good, so they take a lot of time. So you don't really want to apply to 20 universities. There will be no need to do that. Choose the ones with us that you want to go to. Well, let's get a shorter list so you can make a stronger application to the ones that you want rather than trying lots. That's a self-defeating strategy. It takes too much time.
Thank you, Julian. We've got a couple of questions that have been posted in the Q&A that kind of I can group together, I think. We've been asked if applying to a top university or for medicine, is it necessary for students to study GCSE or is A-level enough? And then on that medicine side of things as well, we've also had one of the attendees ask what kind of research, so I guess that kind of for medical school, what kind of preparation, I suppose, would you expect them to be doing, now?
Okay, yes. So if you are applying for a top course, medicine, or a top university, you need to present yourself as that student who has something to say about it. So in terms of research, you need to be researching your subject. The universities themselves, I wouldn't spend too long worrying about which university for medicine. We can tell you which universities to apply to. We can guide you through that. It's relatively straightforward. It's the same with Oxford or Cambridge. We can help you choose which college to apply to. So your preparation before you start a college like Abbey, it's not so much which university or which course so much, not that level of detail. You should be reading. You should be finding books to read about your subject if you are interested in a top university. Because I keep coming back to the fact that these are top world universities. They're likely to be higher ranked than universities in most other countries, just because of the system here. So prepare yourself, read books. If you don't know what to read, well, ask us. We know what you should be reading. And for those students that are coming to us, we give you information on a portal before you even arrive. We have libraries in departments, so we can give you things to do to prepare yourself. What was the other part of that question, John?
The other part was just about whether students, it's an advantage or students can go to medical school or to top universities if they haven't taken GCSEs beforehand.
Oh, GCSEs. This is a slightly complicated one, and I can't give you a general answer because it depends. Okay. As a rule, in the UK, if you've been in the UK studying in year 10 and year 11, the answer is absolutely yes. You have to do GCSEs if you're in the UK system, because that's what everybody here does. So the GCSE or IGCSE, which is the version of it sold to schools in other countries, international GCSE, that's the standard UK exam, age 16. It's a good benchmark for universities. And another problem is sometimes in other countries, schools get students to sit a small number of them, maybe 5 or 6. It's okay. It's okay, not the end of the world. But most UK schools would give 8, 9, or 10. So that's kind of the expectation if you're in the UK system. Clearly, if you're not in the UK system, the universities can't expect you to have done them. You may have qualifications from your high school. We find that is not an obstacle. However, for some universities, for example, there's one medical school where you have to have done GCSEs. And that's it. There's no way around it. But we know which one it is, and we will look at your background and say to you, well, you've come from your country where you didn't sit GCSEs, fair enough, because your school doesn't do them. So we're not going to suggest you apply to that university for medicine. But look, there are 20 others that you can apply to. We'll tell you which ones they are. So that level of detail is why I have UCAS experts, because they know that level of detail, and it's why we have one-to-one correspondence with students. We sit down and we work out what is the best plan for you, given your background.
Thank you, Julian. I think I'm gonna wrap up with one sort of final question. I know we've got a few more, and if anyone does post anyone, please we'll try and get to that, or we'll either answer it after the session. It's sort of a question. There's a few threads to this question. It's from Jamal. I'll answer the first question, then I'll pass on the second bit. I think you touched on this when you talked about us not being a selective college. What exams do I need to take? Well, there are no specific exams. You submit an application form. We look at your school reports and your academic achievements to date, and also we will interview you. So that might be with someone like Julian, or with Mike, who's our director of admissions, and based on that, we'll make you an offer to study with us. So that's the first part of that question. The second page, Jamal just asked, what are the most popular clubs, extracurricular clubs, and can students start their own clubs?
Okay, first of all, yes, you can start your own club. You basically go and see your personal tutor and say, I'm very interested in starting this club. How do I go about that? And what your personal tutor is likely to say is, do you have anybody else who'd like to join? Because if you've got other people, then the club can absolutely happen. Examples of this are golfing club. So we have golf here now. We didn't used to have golf. We had 3 or 4 students that wanted to play golf. So now we go to the local golf course, which is 1 mile away from here, very close. And the PE teacher takes you to the golf course. So we have golf. Which are the most popular? Well, it really depends on your interests. We have 65 different activities, 65 per week. Some of those are sport. So we've got many students playing basketball. It's a very popular sport for us. Badminton, we go swimming, we have netball, soccer, of course, football. We play 11-a-side in a league in Cambridge. So there's lots of sport here. We have a PE teacher, and his job is to help us engage in sport and enjoy ourselves. Outside of sport, there are music clubs. We've got 2 music rehearsal rooms. We've also got music production club, where you learn how to record and DJ. We've got karaoke club, for example, as well. There are art clubs, so you can study A-level art, and you can go to art club, or just go to art club if you wish. So part of that, you might have noticed on the Abbey Inspires, life drawing. Anyone can go to that if they wish. Then there are subject-based clubs. So we have finance club, science club, biology club, and then things like debate club, board games. There's a whole range of activities. I wouldn't worry about which is more popular. It's which would you like to do, and then sign up. The way that we do that, at the beginning of the term, we have a freshers fair, which is basically all of the clubs set up a stall at various parts in the school, and we spend a couple of hours wandering around the school, seeing what's available, looking at the 65 different clubs, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll have a go at chess club. I'll sign up. So that's how we do it here, and it's really down to what you would like. And if you'd like to start a new club, we had Lego club started, another example, from the students. We also have toy photography clubs started by the students. These are all fantastic things. I'm very happy for students to ask for any club, and we'll support it. I've got a lot of people here who want to help students enjoy their time. So I've got great teachers for the academic side, great university preparation support, but I've also got boarding staff and many other people whose job it is to help you have an enjoyable time and engage and join in and make friends while you're with us. Thank you, John.
Brilliant. Thank you, Julian. I think that's kind of everything. I apologize if we haven't got to all the questions, but I think we've covered most of the topics. But if anyone does have any questions, obviously we'll be in touch after this session. So please do feel free to post them or to ask our admissions team. I think we can call that it for the day. Thank you very much for attending. I'll let Julian sign off, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, John. I hope that was helpful. My reason for doing these seminars is to help give you more information. And particularly, as I mentioned, I think international students sometimes don't quite understand the difference in the UK system and what's required. So hopefully that's been helpful to you. And very best of luck to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.